Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Matthew Drinkwater. I head up the innovation agency at London College of Fashion. And my team has a remit to explore any emerging technology and its impact on the fashion and retail industries, and hopefully accelerating the pace of change within the fashion industry. And well, 2020 was quite a big year for the fashion industry. If we jump onto the next slide. We can maybe talk a little bit, and I only want to talk very briefly about COVID because I think everybody has had this experience. But what COVID did was really obvious to the retail industry. It closed stores, and for the fashion industry, it shut down catwalks. And immediately the way that both fashion and retail had to think about product, how we communicate and how we engage with fashion. And so what I wanted to talk about today was some of the ways that this has played out over the last year, and what I think might be the massive opportunities for the fashion industry to think about product and experience and retail going forward. Digital fashion is something that has been spoken about a huge amount. Digital fashion has so many different meanings, from fashion for avatars within the gaming, in this case Fortnite, or digital humans, as you can see Michaela on the right, or even myself. And I think if we just push on one more, you should be able to see the animation on that slide, which is me wearing a digital Burberry puffer. All of these things have started to become much more accessible and much more spoken about within the fashion industry. And they're offering up entirely new ways in which we could think about how we create product. So let's move on. So how do we begin to reimagine what fashion shows could look like? One of the things that was said to me a lot during 2020 was this desire to replicate what already existed within the physical world and simply bringing it back into a virtual world. And I think this is one of the things that inspired us in one of the early projects that we did last year. So if we jump on quickly to the next slide. We worked on a virtual fashion show called The Fabric of Reality in the summer of last year. I guess in reaction to some of the things that we'd seen in the very early stages of the pandemic, where a lot of what happened during digital fashion weeks was a lot of videos with 2D content. It felt very flat, both kind of in the way that you experience it through a screen, like we're talking to each other now, but also in the content itself. So we partnered with Verizon Media and Riot Studios in London to create a virtual reality show, and had 3 young designers come on board to build out an entirely new way of how they were both creating product and how they communicated it. And there's a short video which will follow next, where one of the young designers, Charlys, is talking through her concepts for what she wanted to do with her opportunity to create this virtual reality fashion show. So let's run that video. I think it's on the next slide. And also, as you begin to go through the experience, and there's DJ Gudetama taking us through the experience backstage into her virtual collection, these are all pieces that were actually available. So there was a link that enabled you to click through and actually go to Charlys' physical store to buy real products at the end of this entirely virtual experience. You could also try on the virtual products within the videos as well. And it was a really interesting way to begin to allow, I guess, a fashion audience to have something which feels very different from a front row experience. So if we jump on quickly to the next video, this is Sabine, another designer, and she again was really fascinated with the use of handcraft and how to use handcraft techniques within a digital space, inspired by her family in Russia and all of the really amazing embroidery techniques that she uses in her collections to create something really very different in virtual reality. All of these videos are still available, and you can actually still visit this experience in the Museum of Other Realities. So if you have a VR headset, then you should absolutely check that out right now. And this is a young graduate, Demara from the London College of Fashion. And Demara's ambition was to begin to take you on a journey that merged both the biological and the physical and takes you into an underwater experience. So here in the holding area, you're able to step through the portal to begin to see Demara's creations. We'll just start going through this as we step in. And I think one of the most important parts of this process was to begin to challenge people's perceptions about an emotional reaction to virtual experiences. Can we create through virtual experiences the same level of excitement that you would get from a physical event? And actually, if any of you do have the opportunity to step into VR and begin to have this experience as we begin to fly through Demara's world, I do a lot of shows at Fashion Week, which involves me going to an awful lot of shows, which is great and lovely, but at some point, some of them begin to meld into the next one. They feel very familiar, and the shows that you remember leave you with a kind of heart-pumping excitement for what you've just experienced. That is exactly what we were able to create. As you fly through this experience and actually begin to navigate and get a sense of the storytelling behind each of these collections, there is an undeniable excitement about the experience, and that you can do it with other people as well. So this was a communal experience as well, a social experience. It was something which felt entirely different to an ordinary Fashion Week experience. And I think what we're going to see in the future is not the end of physical catwalk shows, but also more like the opportunity to sit alongside physical shows. There is a way in which designers and brands can communicate themselves digitally to open up to a much wider audience, to have really breathtaking experiences. And begins to look at how we're at London College of Fashion using different tools to create these virtual experiences, and how technology is going to allow us to build future fashion. Back in February of last year, just before the pandemic, we were running a course in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and using various techniques, in this case an algorithm called OpenPose, to extract skeletal data from video footage. So what you're seeing here is a video of past London College of Fashion catwalk shows. And we were able to extract the skeletal data from the models using OpenPose. And what becomes really exciting about that is when we can extract that data, we can begin to take the model data and place it into a different virtual world. And the students collaborated with my team to produce their own virtual show using these techniques. So if we jump onto the next slide, we can actually see the results of that. So here we go. You can see the video footage on the left, the extracted skeletal data in the next slide, and then some virtual worlds that my team had created using digital garments that the students had made, using various machine learning techniques, including style transfer, which allowed them to use multiple styles on top of those digital garments, and exported them all to create our entirely new footage, which was really, really exciting to begin to see how we could use old video footage to create something entirely new. So what you're seeing here is over 2 hours of real-time rendered visual effects. We were able to overlay that beautiful venue in central London with real-time rendered visual effects to completely form the experience for visitors to that presentation. You can also see in the bottom right-hand corner there, a motion capture performer driving a digital model. So on the stage in the center of the screen, alongside real models, is also an entirely digital model being driven in real time by motion capture, wearing digital garments modeled on the designer's collections. And this incredible experience allows us to begin to imagine what a more mixed reality world could look like, and how fashion presentations in the future could allow for a much more immersive experience. What was also really fascinating was that Stephen's collection, his sales went up by 60% following this presentation. So whilst we can't draw a straight line between massive immersive experience and hugely increased sales, there is definitely a link between consumers feeling more close to a collection and then making that purchase. It was really amazing to begin to see the interaction between real models and digital models. And actually, as we were in rehearsals for this, the motion capture performer who was driving the digital model came up to me because she had to wear these digital garments. And she came up to me and said, "Matt, how should I walk when I'm wearing this digital garment?" Which struck me as quite amazing, because actually all she was wearing in reality was a motion capture suit. To think that her real life performance was altered just purely by these digital garments that you're seeing on screen is really fascinating, and really begins to push us to a point where what you wear digitally could begin to influence how you feel in the real physical world. And so the real explosion of interest in digital garments is something that represents a massive opportunity for designers in the future. I think retail is going to see many more immersive experiences. We ran a project a number of years ago looking at virtual try-on. So this was a scarf try-on for a young designer called Emma Shipley that allowed us to create a much more realistic virtual try-on and begin to see how designers could begin to manufacture product virtually before they physically actually have to go through that process, and to begin to see whether consumers would buy virtually before they interacted physically with the product. And virtual try-on has really moved forward quite a lot over the last few years. So if we go on to the next slide, you can see how we're beginning to create much more realistic virtual product. We have our own scanning studio at the college. We have a photogrammetry unit with 60 cameras where we're able to create really very lifelike examples of physical products. So in this case, a mulberry bag. This is the Amberley bag that we scanned a few years back. And not only product, we're able to get very high-end captures of people as well. So if we jump on quickly to the next one. This is actually a mobile phone scan of Spencer Kelly, who's a BBC presenter. He came into the college to see us, and we were, through a very quick 2-minute scan, able to get incredibly high resolution of Spencer. This was done through an iPhone. And LiDAR scanners are becoming much more ubiquitous on phones. So the opportunity for us to create digital content, digital people, digital product, and scale up digital objects is becoming really very simple. And if we go on to the next slide, you can see how we're beginning to push out this for designers. I think immediately it shows how we could do much more realistic virtual try-on. This is the most obvious way that quick scanning of people, product, and places can all come together to create something that is much more immersive for consumers.
Our remit is to go out and disrupt the fashion industry using emerging technology.
Our vision for the future is to see how consumers can interact with their wardrobe in a new way.
A digital human stylist is a digital replica of a human being.
It is your smart assistant who can make intelligent recommendations on what to wear.
Understand what's in your wardrobe, what's in your calendar, where you're going, who you're going to meet.
The digital human stylist is powered by Microsoft AI and natural language processing, which allows that interaction to just feel completely natural, as if you were just talking to a friend. It's really straightforward to capture your avatar. You take a mobile device and you do a 360 capture at 3 different heights: head height, chest height, and waist height.
We designed the digital human stylist to be interacted with in a number of different ways. A mixed reality headset such as the HoloLens 2. Likewise, you can interact with it through a tablet device or the mobile phone in your pocket.
So you're flying to Berlin this morning for some meetings this afternoon. How about this?
The digital human stylist is brought to life through a unique combination of augmented reality and artificial intelligence.
The impact of 3D design on the supply chain is going to be profound. Less wastage, people are going to be making things which they know the customers like, and I think it's a real opportunity for brands to really have more of a personal relationship with their customers.
I think there is an emotional element to retail that we quite often forget. If someone creates a moment with you or there's a kind of really natural interaction, that really does change the way you feel about a purchase.
The idea that you could introduce someone into your own household that you begin to form a trusting relationship with is something that could become really completely revolutionary for the industry. If I jump onto kind of the next section quickly around e-commerce, to talk you through, if we go on to the next slide, where there might be some more ways that we can use real-time game technology to redefine communication. So you can run through these videos really quickly. We can begin to create environments that are photoreal in real time, to begin to tell that story of how a collection came to be. Where did it come from? How has it grown? Let's go on to the next one. Just last winter, we were able to collaborate with Pangaea and a startup called Anam XR to reimagine purchasing cycles through e-commerce and to give a far more, yes, you can run this video, a far more immersive experience when it comes to e-commerce, to allow you to actually visit a location and to walk through that. And if we can do that and create something which feels exciting and feels different for consumers, that we might be able to educate consumers more and that they might begin to value the products that they own more. But I think ultimately creativity is what will change, and our ability to completely reimagine experience. And these are just a quick few examples of how we've been doing that using Unity to look at product. And if we go on to the next one, to begin to look at people as well, how we can begin to use some of the techniques in Game Engine to, in real time, allow this sort of VFX graph effects into fashion presentation. And then just the very last video is Costas in my team applying VFX graph within Unity to redefine his image. There are so many opportunities opening up to us to create entirely new experiences for the fashion industry. So effectively where we're going is a completely new fashion ecosystem, one where fashion does not need to be physical to be real. And I am out of time. Thank you so much. This is where you can get in touch with us. It's amazing to be here, and I'm looking forward to speaking to everyone really soon.